Hello, this is David from the True Blue Sand blog again, and it's just going to be a brief video looking at setting up my saw differently. We've been running a 24-inch bar on this saw for years, and it's handled everything I needed to cut with it. And but I've got a big one I've got to cut, and so we ordered a 28-inch bar from Bailey's, and we just put it on here. I've never run a bar that long. 24 has been my limit, and on 24 you've got a full comp chain. You got one tooth in between every, or one link in between every tooth. On this one you got two. You go to a longer bar, you got more teeth in the cut, so you go to fewer teeth, so the saw keeps its speed up. So it's a little bit different setting up your tension. I've been setting up, tension on bars that are shorter than this all the time. So my normal procedure is to, block this up, hold the saw down, and turn that until it touches. And usually I give it just a little bit more of a tweak over here, and it'll be just right. Now, if you go too much on this, you'll make your chain too tight. And a good rule is, you get your chain just as tight as you can where it still turns freely. So you go to a longer bar, be a little more careful about that. Make sure that's still turning nice and free. Just give it a little tweak and see what it does. That's slowing there. That's getting a little more resistance there. I'm going to just back that off just a hair. Of course, that'll break in and loosen up pretty quick when I start running. But anyway, so I've got that set, I think, where I want it. You want it to turn free. You don't want to be messing up your rivets or burning your chain. And that being a new chain, you want to check and see how the clearance is on it. Now, if you go to your box your chain came in, it'll tell you this is 3/8 pitch chain. Come over here, depth gauge settings, and you'll see it that says, let me see, 22, let's see, there we go, 28 thousandths. And you'll hear guys say file them down. You file them down and it grabs more, and you're more likely to get a kickback. So I try to stay within. You take one of these little tools, and on the end here it says 25, there's 30. And if we run that across there, at 25 it doesn't quite touch. So I've got more than 25. And if I go to the 30 thousandths, that just touches. That's just touching. So they've got it set up, it's not quite 30 thousandths, and it's greater than 25, and try to keep it right in there. After you get used to running it, you might bump it up, to 30. When you're using these, don't file across this. This is soft metal. What you want to do is check it and see where it's at, and then you can take your file, take a stroke or two with this off, and then go back and check it again. But so anyways, not quite 30. And definitely over 25. So we're right in there. Don't try to push it too hard. Now on this, when you got a skip chain, you got a greater distance between, and that's more prone to give you a kickback. You can get a little more grab because of this distance between. So pay attention to that if you switch into a longer bar. And all I need to do now is oil her up and see if I can get my big tree down. But anyway, pay attention to how much tension you got on it. That turns easily, and there's no gap. It should turn up. You can turn that up until you get a no gap, and then tweak it a little more on a really long bar, and you won't be able to turn it. So pay attention to that. You want to be able to turn it easily. And after you run a few minutes, shut it down and check it again, because that new chain's gonna break in and loosen up a little bit, and you don't want to be throwing your chain off when you're in the middle of a cut. Hey, we're going to have just a little bonus here on the end. These roller tips, now on a steel, I guess you don't grease them. I don't know how they do that, but you don't grease them. But the saws I run all have a little port there for grease. Anyway, they come with a little deal you keep in your toolkit for greasing them. And my gosh, you get nasty trying to fill them and nasty using them, and they don't ever work right. And what I do is I just use my grease gun. I get one of these little tips on it, and that will, there, just put that in there. There, see a little grease coming out. Get a little grease out, roll that part of the way. Do it again. Get that, there, come in a little bit. Get that bearing good and greasy. There we go. There we go. Put a little more. There we go. And we got that good and greasy, and then you get a little grease running down your bar too. Get that lubed up real good. A lot of times I'll take a little grease, stick it in the groove. And when you're handling your chain, always wear your gloves. It's you know, when you're cutting, a lot of times if you're in really good conditions where you're not going to trip or get snapped with things, I won't wear gloves. In the winter time I generally do, but in summertime I don't always wear gloves. But when you're handling chain, it's a good idea to put those gloves on. These things are sharp, and that's the most time you're most likely to be cut, is when you're handling that chain. So when I'm sharpening or adjusting or filing those depth gauges, that's when I always have gloves on. So